Can I just ask? The build up to this test has been overshadowed by Ollie Robinson's suspension and the latest development last night that another player has historically posted racially offensive tweets. Can I just ask what impact that's had on you, the players, and the mood in the camp over the last 24 hours?
Well, yeah, I think it's it's a difficult time. But I think as players, we're trying to learn from this. Really, we realise that it's important to try and get educated around these issues, which we're continuing to do with the ECB and the PCA. We've already been doing workshops before this series to try and help improve ourselves as people, basically, to try and make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen.
Robinson has apologised. The tweets were 8 years ago. Has that apology been unanimously accepted within the dressing room, or are some players still uneasy about it?
No, I think it's been accepted. He stood up in front of the group and apologised, and you could see how sincere he was and upset he was. And I think as a group, we appreciate that he's a different person now. He's done a lot of maturing and growing since then, and he's got the full support of the team.
We're seeing tweets emerge historically from years gone by. I wonder, to what extent do you think that's fair as a professional sportsman to be held to account for something you may have posted a long time ago?
Well, I think certain language and things that the subjects that are talked about are obviously not acceptable. And yes, we do make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And I think as people, we've just got to try and get better and improve and make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen and make sure people are aware that it's unacceptable.
But the latest incident, the player was less than 16 years old. Is that fair to hold someone that young to account?
Well, again, when I remember being that age, and you do make mistakes, and you may be a little bit, you very young and inexperienced. And I think it's just a case of trying to make sure that even at that age, we try and send the message that this is unacceptable language to use.
And you mentioned education. Can you give us an idea of how you've been educated recently and what exactly, what impact that's had on you?
Yeah, well, we've started some workshops through the PCA and ECB. The first one was on racism, and that's it's. I don't think it doesn't matter how old you are. You can't. You can never know too much, and I think it's really important that we keep doing this. We keep buying into this because it's hugely important for our game to be as diverse as possible, and we want it to be an inclusive one.
And finally, for me, to what extent do you vet your old tweets? There was one circulated today from 2010, for example. I mean, how sharp do you now need to be on that, and how sharp do players need to be on that now?
Well, yeah, I think it's something that we're definitely going to have to look at. But again, I think through the kind of, if we educate people well enough, if we get educated well enough, then that language and those tweets don't go out in the first place. But yeah, I think the historical stuff. It's a lot of for me, it's 10, 11 years ago. I've certainly changed as a person, and I think that's the difficulty. Things do change, and you do make mistakes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Joe Wilson, please.
Do you feel personally let down, James, by what some of your teammates have tweeted?
I wouldn't say let down. No, I think, as we've talked about, the tweets coming 10 years ago. Obviously, I think there was initial shock there, the language that was used, but his remorse, seeing how, knowing him as I have for the last few years, I think he's definitely changed as a person, and he's definitely going to improve from this as well. He's going to learn from these mistakes, I guess.
And with another case already hanging over the squad, there must be an atmosphere of anxiety, James, amongst all the players that something you tweeted in the past might now come up.
Yeah, I guess. I think it's something that, as I said, we need to look at. And if there are any tweets from years ago, we do have to look at that, and we'll have to again learn from this and try and be better in the future. Try and make sure we know it's unacceptable to use these sorts of phrases and language.
Sure, no worries. I was just going to ask whether you felt the government intervention was helpful or appropriate, James. I'm not sure if you heard that question. I'll mute myself now.
That's I think that's way above my pay grade, to be honest. I don't get involved in that. Obviously people have got their political views, but that's nothing to do with us as in the team.
Okay, we're going to move on to John Etheridge and then Mike Walters. Hopefully, John, you can hear us. I'm not sure if it's our end or, but go ahead, John.
Jim, hi. You're going to break Alex Cook's record on Thursday at Edgbaston. That must be quite a thrill for you.
Yeah, well, if selected, not sure on the team yet. I've got the opportunity to do that on Thursday. It's been an incredible sort of 15 years, really. It's amazing. I can't quite knowing how much Cook he played, and it just makes me very proud that I've actually got to this point.
Can I ask you, a long time ago now, can I ask you if you can remember your feelings and your thoughts after you bowled one over in Test cricket?
Yeah, I thought I wasn't good enough. I thought it was a huge step up from county cricket. If I remember, NASA didn't have a fine leg for me, and I think I went for quite a few runs. I think my first ball was a no ball as well, so lots of nerves there. And I did feel like maybe this was a step too far for me at that point.
And at what point did you realise that you could actually hack it in Test cricket? Was it that first match when you got the five, or did it take a few years?
No, I think it took a few years. I think, I think once putting some performances against the better sides in the world, no disrespect to Zimbabwe, but playing against teams like South Africa and Australia, once you've and India, say, once you put in performances against the top teams in the world, that's when you feel like you can actually perform at that level. So it did take a few years and a few tours around the world to make me think that I could actually do.
Okay, let's go to Mike.
Okay.
Hi, Jim. I hope you can hear me
Sorry,
okay.
John, we just found it difficult to hear people.
Can you hear me okay, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got you, yeah.
Jim, do you remember in sort of 2005-06, you went to your England career, went into sort of a dip, if you like. First of all, you had a difficult time in South Africa in 2004-05, as I remember. And then I think it was the following year, you were diagnosed with a stress fracture in your back. When you sit here now with 161 caps, you sometimes sit and think, crikey, how did I make it this far? Because 15 years ago, there was talk that we might not see you again.
Yeah, I probably most the fact I overcome little hurdles throughout my career, and it's probably made me stronger. That stress fracture was probably kind of hitting the reset button, I guess. I'd gone through a lot of changes with my action before that, and that stress fracture was probably a godsend, really. Made me go back to my old action, and since then I've felt really comfortable and got more consistent, and I think that's really helped me. And I think makes me feel proud that I've got stronger from that, and just never look back.
You said to Iggy a minute ago you didn't feel you were good enough to play Test cricket. Did you not take a fifer on your Test debut? I mean, that's normally a pretty healthy sign that you're up to the job.
Yeah, but I just felt, I don't know. I think I cleaned up the tail in that game, and I think, as I said to John, like until you've played against the best players in the world, and you've got them out, and I think only then do you feel like you can actually compete and belong there.
Top man, I hope it goes well for you on Thursday, mate.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, let's go to Will, and then we'll take one more after that. It's just we're struggling with the signal here, so I do apologise. Go ahead, Will.
Hi, Jimmy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Cheers. There's a number of players, bowlers missing now. Ollie Robinson's obviously not going to play on Thursday. One man who could come in is Ollie Stone. I don't think you've played a test together, but you would have been in a bubble a lot together, seen a lot of them. Can you just give us a sense of where he's at, what makes him so exciting, what you're looking forward to about seeing him if he gets a chance this week?
Yeah, well, I think Ollie's really impressive person, actually. I like him a lot as a bloke. He works incredibly hard. He's got pace. He's got skills as well. He can swing the ball. And I think he's got character as well. He's got the character you need to play Test cricket. We saw that in India briefly. So yeah, he's someone I think is very exciting and could have a decent Test career because he's got all the attributes to be able to perform at this level. And as I said, he's got the character.
Let's just take one more. Andrew Miller, I think we got a request from, and then we're done.
Yeah, hi Jimmy. Just going back to your formative years. I mean, I suppose the key moment for you was against New Zealand. Obviously, the recall against Wellington, and then the home summer, the following season when you cemented your place. And I guess you haven't really looked back. I mean, what do you recall of those circumstances? And obviously coming together with Stuart at the same time. I mean, that partnership going from strength to strength still.
Yeah, well, I think we both look back on that Test match with great fondness. I think it was sort of a proper starting point for us in our Test careers. I think the fact that Peter Moore, the coach at the time, showed that confidence in us and left out two senior bowlers who'd been hugely influential in the England side up until that point.